We're dead. Darwin was wrong. 5 of the top online money producers on the planet I trained.
Nobody cares about all the trials and tribulations of your weak life.
This ex-war veteran, angry American, goes on a massive rant about how he hates anyone under the age of 60.
I tried to kill my teacher when I was 11 years old. And I broke people's bones and tried to put people's eyes out. Now look at the current results and look at me. There's no comparison. Spare the rod, spoil the child.
I travelled all the way up to his castle in Scotland in the middle of nowhere, only for him to criticise and attack my net worth, which he had no clue about, and for him to shame me about my views on inflation. I love talking about money.
Well, you're not rich. If you really think that, what's wrong with you?
Can you share your net worth?
Why don't you do more homework and look it up?
Dan Peña calls himself the $1 trillion man, but we argue if he's even a billionaire.
Don't trust us.
Dan, in the last few years, do you think the world has gone woke?
In the last few years, I don't think I know the world has gone to as a very prominent lawyer that's getting ready to retire from London, sat in that next room, the library, a few weeks ago when he was up to see his daughter at St. Andrews University, said, "We're on the way down and we're ahead of schedule."
So what's gone wrong?
Your generation.
My generation.
And their generation. Assuming you're all about the same age. You look older, so maybe you are. But yeah, it's sad but true. I said in 2014, I was 10 years behind Professor Hawkins from Cambridge. Because he said what I'm about to say in 2014, he said it in 2004. The human race, Homo sapien, is at its apex. We're on a mediocre planet with a brain slightly more functional than a chimp, and our best days are behind us. I'm not the only one that says this, but apparently I'm the only one that reads all the world reports from the International Monetary Fund, from the World Bank, from all the prestigious associations that have been saying this for several years, but nobody listens. For example, COP28, I think we just had, in Europe, but we had COP27 in Glasgow. You know how many hundreds of millions have been pledged from the people that attend those kind of conventions? Since COP21 through COP27, 100 million has been pledged by the 135 countries around the world. You know how many dollars, euros, pence, pennies have been actually funded through COP27? 0.
So where's it all gone?
No, they haven't funded it because they won't give it to the organizations because of the C word. Now, my favorite C word is not the C word they're worried about. Their favorite C word.
What's your favorite C word?
But I mean, which you all are. But the C word they're worried about is corruption. The money never gets to where it's supposed to go. My favorite drum to beat the last, year and a half is Rwanda.
So just go back to something. When you said you all are, do you mean us three, or do you mean an entire generation of the world?
Well, assuming you're all men, which I don't know in these days, but I mean, because, you know, all the stuff about transgender, et cetera. Men are weak. I could speak, you know, how you spoke 46 hours one time in 2014. I could speak 146 hours about the value of the man and how it's gone down the toilet. In 1986, a woman's handshake was about 86 pounds pressure. A man's handshake in 1986 was about 101 pounds. In 2016, a woman's handshake is 105 pounds, and a man's handshake is 93 pounds. Now, that's just one little indice. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. I think it means a whole lot.
So what went wrong with masculinity then?
It's not considered a priority anymore. It hasn't been for a long time.
What? It's just not needed in the world, you mean?
Because the men are getting closer to the female genes, and the female genes are getting closer to the male genes.
Surely that's got to be bad for our evolution, though.
We're dead. We're dead. Darwin was wrong.
What? I.e. evolution isn't always progress?
No.
We're de-evolving. You mean?
No, we're de-evolving. That's not evolution, that's devolution.
Yeah. So you said earlier it's the younger generation, but...
Generations.
Generations. So anyone younger than your generation?
Oh, no. I'm a Neanderthal. I mean, there's not too many of me left. But, I mean, let's say a generation after me, you'd be about 60. And a generation after that, you'd be about 40. So people from, roughly speaking, 45 to 15, which is 2.5 generations. What
have they done wrong?
I donate to the grammar school I went to. And grammar school to me doesn't mean the grammar school to you. Grammar school is like 0 to 6th grade, okay? I donate to the high school I went to, which is roughly the 9th to the 12th grade. I donate to the university that you got to explain about that I went to, and by some fortune of Allah, I graduated from, okay? And we're giving money, and it's my wife and I go and visit these places, and we just visited them the last trip to America, maybe 3 weeks ago. And we went into the grammar school. Doris Place Grammar School is famous for 2 things. Number 1, Marilyn Monroe went there, and me, okay? Marilyn Monroe went 19 years before I did, and so we went around with a principal, a lovely lady, and we've given them money for a while to build libraries and music centers, etc. And we went into a kindergarten class. And in the kindergarten class, there's about 3 or 4 places as big as that chair over there where they have pillows and little toys for them. So if they're having a bad day, they can go rest there. It's called Quiet Place. It's Quiet Place. They got 3 or 4 of them in kindergarten. And so kindergarten, they're just away from their mother. Well, I could see that. Then we went to the 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade classes. And they got quiet places with little toys and blankies, as they're called. And I asked the principal, who's a very nice lady, I like her a lot, and we're going to continue to fund her. So if you see this, don't get chilled out or don't freak out. So when doesn't anybody punch anybody in the face anymore, I asked. Now, this is the grammar school I went to, and I tried to kill my teacher when I was 11 years old.
Why?
Okay, if it's important, I'll get to that in a minute. And this is the same school that I broke people's bones and tried to put people's eyes out. They called me a hellion. I don't know if that word is still popular. And I said, what happens if Billy punches Joey in the face? Make sure that the kid that got punched isn't hurt too bad. Then you take the kid that punched him. Now, that's not you. You know better than that. Your parents, would they be sad or would they be a happy face if you punched somebody, if they knew you punched? And that's supposed to make it all better. When I punched somebody in the face in 1955, 6, 7, and 8, I got the strap. I got put with a dunce cap. I got put in a closet all day till one of my parents could pick me up. Now look at the current results and look at me. There's no comparison. Spare the rod, spoil the child. And that's a short sentence to state why we are where we are today.
Do you think it's because, there's this saying about hard times create strong men create good times create weak men. Do you just think we're in that sort of cycle where we haven't had in the West, we haven't had a war?
We're about.
Yeah. So do you think this is just cyclical evolution?
Well, the Romans had their times. The Persians had their times. Yes.
I mean, because the British Empire is what's left of it now.
Well, when I spoke at University of Edinburgh several years ago, the law school, and I was privileged to speak, and a lot of bright kids, the kids, asked questions why I was the way I was. And this is 7, 8 years ago, because I've been known as a Neanderthal since 20 years at least. And I said, well, why did you ask me to come and speak at your law school? As I've asked at Oxford, where I've spoken, Naval Academy, where I've spoken, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, because you have a different opinion, and your opinion seems to follow history. The Romans had their times, the Persians had their times, and so that would deem that it's probably cyclical, as you alluded to just 20 seconds ago. And I said, yeah, but you kids don't understand how long the cycles are. Same reason I give for global warming versus climate change. cycle. But the cycle may last 50, 100 years. You may never see the light of day vis-a-vis, now we have same-sex bathrooms. And I remember the first time I went into a same-sex bathroom, you can't pause me for anything. But when I went in and I saw other, gals in the boys' bathroom, it made me want to pee less. And I had to pee. So, and so then I went in the airport. I'm looking for a bathroom that didn't have the same sex, and they do have them. And but everything's ass backwards. Now, this is for the world, not just Scotland. I could talk a month about Scotland. But we are the norm today. Our bars are so low now for role models. They're so low, they're really non-existent. We have no role models to speak of. And then when we get to people that are in office today in Britain, Scotland, and England, and Wales, and Northern Ireland, not all of them are laughable, but most of them are laughable. They're laughable. They couldn't get a job in a supermarket putting groceries in a bag. Yet they're in office, public officer, because we voted them in. And the argument is, since I'm dangling my toe into politics, is that who else can we vote for? Well, that's a sad commentary. Politics was meant a long, long time ago to we're the best of the best. Our shining knights filled these spots, but it's certainly not the case now.
So I've only really recently started talking about politics since...
Have you had any death threats?
Yeah, I'm doing all right at getting some...
Okay.
Yeah, I'm causing a bit of trouble. 2020 it started. You can't even say the L word, the C word, the V word. You can't even put the content up on YouTube. But to me, I look at the taxes as high as it's been since the late 70s. All the entrepreneurs I know are leaving the country in their droves. The NHS is completely broken. This new massive scandal out. The police completely broken. Crime is basically legal in London. Everything seems broken all at once. Mm-hmm. Everything. Can you remember in your lifetime it ever being this bad and everything being so broken?
It used to be not broken. After World War II, the world came together. Okay. The winners did. The winners did, and we helped the losers. We helped the Germans and the Japanese. Then the Korean War broke out, which wasn't a war. I forget what they called it, but anyway, the Korean War broke out, and so we put belt and braces on again, and we marched towards the gunfire, and we solved the problem. But since the Korean War, where we had more new housing, more new jobs, et cetera, because recovery. Unfortunately, war is good for the economy. But we recovered from the war with not wartime jobs, but regular domestic type jobs. People went off to the police force, the fire department, et cetera, and became teachers, et cetera, et cetera. But that ended with a disgruntled war, which was the Vietnam War, which I was part of, which kind of pissed, even though you guys weren't involved directly, you certainly were indirectly because you supported the U.S. And so people got, disengaged. They got disillusioned. And in America, it was the first war, arguably, that we ever didn't win. That's not really true, but it sounds good. And since the 70s, I've seen a deterioration in the world, manhood, if that's a benchmark, and it certainly is one indice, since the 70s. So for 50 plus years, I've seen it continue to go down. But now for me, who's an aggressive, energetic, with a big mouth, who has rhino skin, you can't hurt my feelings, I'm an American, I got rich off it. I didn't see any trouble coming out of the military and getting rich. It was like brushing my teeth. But unfortunately, not many of my veteran brethren felt the same or did the same because they were already starting to get poor role models. I happen to have a superhero as a role model. My dad was like the superhero in the comic books. And the ex-CIA assassin, serving 2 wars. So I took to it like, a dog to a bucket of water had been in the desert all day. But I have a strong personality. I have self-esteem. Most Brits don't have any self-esteem. Or if they have it, it's low self-esteem because they've had poor role models. And not just Brit, but the world. Mainland Europe wants another war like they won AIDS. My business interests there. Are you crazy? Well, what about the poor Ukrainians? Well, better than me. I'm saying if I was in one of those other countries. The Brits say the same thing. You ask the Scots up here. Do they want to send boys to fight for Ukraine? Nay bother. I mean, forget about it. Okay?
Well, they've got the 60 genders to choose from now, haven't they?
Oh, there's 41 wars right now on the planet. 41.
And is that high or low relative?
It's between 30 and 50. It's in the middle. It's probably in the middle.
Normal?
Yeah. And of course, how do you classify a war as a war? You know, two different countries against each other, that's not a war. Otherwise, it would be 100 because there's a lot of stuff in Africa that we don't even hear about. It's like not the Ayatollah, but the president of Iran who just died. Now, anybody that has any brains whatsoever knew the guy was dead as soon as they announced it. You know, and then 19 hours later, they announced the poor guy's dead, along with everybody else on the plane. If you remember, the first blurb out of BBC and Sky News was, "We're talking to the pilot." Really? He's dead. How'd you talk to him? We're talking to one of the survivors. Really? He's dead. But how come nobody asked that question now? Why isn't Beth or what's her name, Rigby, saying, "You said you talked to the pilot. The pilot's dead. How'd you talk to him?" But we just let it slide under the table. Just another bit of misinformation. Unfortunately, the fake news is real. And in some cases, people listen to fake news better than, and more interestingly, than the real news. BBC has always been the standard, I thought.
For fake news?
No, for good, straight.
Yeah, but it was. It's not anymore.
No. Now they've been sucked into the vortex like everybody else. I like Al Jazeera, the Arabic station, if you want to hear, you know, the real that's going on. But it's biased. It's obviously biased towards, the Middle East. But I learned when I was with the Onassis group many decades ago from the CEO of Onassis, Konstantin Gratsos, who was my mentor for a long time. He said, "Mr. Peña, where there's smoke, there's fire." It's rare, now this was then, it's rare that they make up the story just a figment of some imagination. There's got to be some string of truth to it. Well, that's not true now. Now there doesn't need to be a string of truth at all. It's just, whatever you think of. You could start a podcast, and there's many, not many, but a few out there that just, well, let's see, what kind of can I sell my 2 million followers or 500,000 followers or whatever. But we're through. I just had a seminar end here a week ago, 25 guys from all over, one gal, 4 guys and one gal. And the gal was there because her husband came a few months ago, and so he sent her to, anyway. And from all over the world. And when I have a few drinks, graduation night in this room, after dinner, and they had too much to drink, why are we cunts, Mr. Peña? Why has it taken me 7 years to come here? Why am I afraid of hearing the truth? What? And I said, if I knew that, I'd be up there with a big man, telling you whether you're going to go down there or up there. I mean, I don't know the reason, other than it is a form of evolution, but it's not evolution, it's devolution, because we were all cavemen 45,000 years ago. If I like this guy's girl, I hit him in the head, kill him, and grab her, drag her off to my cave. Those genes are dead. This country, Britain, used to rule the world with two-thirds of the world with something called gunboat diplomacy. If we wanted it, we took it. Now look at us. Just look at us, what's happened in 200 years. We've sunk to the pits of having some of the people we have in office today. And it's not going to get any better. It just isn't. There's no light, if you're in a tunnel and it's dark and you see a light, it's probably a train going to run over you. It's not light at the end of the tunnel anymore, because you never know what news is going to be deemed fit for the public. And that news may or may not be accurate. This thing about the blood it's beyond tragic. It's 40 years. But we all know how they circle the wagons, the big boys. Now, I'm one of those big boys, so I don't want to disillusion or give misinformation. I'm one of those guys that could circle the wagons because I know enough people, have enough money. But for that to be done, and how the fine guy that did the study for 5 years, he pointed out how there was this lie to cover this slide, to cover this slide, to cover this slide, to cover this slide. And then the Lord, or whatever the current health minister is, when he was brought for evidence, he didn't really, as I understood, the BBC, he didn't even understand what the investigation was about. How is that possible?
How does this make you all feel where the world is right now?
Well, I'm glad I'm almost 80, so I'll leave it to you kids.
Are you not angry?
No, I'm pissed off enough to have an exploratory committee to decide whether I'm going to run for office here for Westminster seat for Angus. It's now been gerrymandered, split in two. I call it a North Angus and a South Angus. It's something else. But in fact, I'm having a town hall meeting on Friday in Brecon. And people ask me along those lines, why haven't you ever run before? You've been here 40 years. Good question. I didn't get a UK passport till 2021. It took me 26 years to get a UK passport.
Why?
Some people would say that was an accident. Some people would say it was on purpose. I don't know. Part of it's my fault because the first 17 or 18 years I lived here, I was back and forth every 30, 40 days. And you have to be in some place for some period of time. And I either didn't understand that or didn't want to understand it and was misinformed. When I turned it over to my lovely wife, a chartered accountant, she got me a passport in 5 years, which is how it's supposed to do. Okay, and so I have a UK passport as of October 2021. But I mean, when they sold me this place 40 years ago, Sotheby's said, Mr. Peña, it's the 40s here. The 1840s. I didn't believe him. I didn't believe him.
Were they right?
1740s, they should have said. And nothing's changed up here.
Why'd you stay here then?
I love it. Look at the place for yourself. I mean,
I had to walk around the grounds. It is lovely.
Yeah. I miscalculated by a factor of 3 how much it would cost to maintain this place on a monthly basis. So,
can you tell us how much?
It's $100 grand a month.
Just to like
just
the gardens,
the fucking lights.
Yeah. 100 grand a month just to keep the lights on in the castle.
The lawn cut.
Yeah. Oh, and you thought it'd be about 30 a month?
At that time, 25.
Yeah.
I was fucking wrong.
Has it been worth keeping this place?
I wouldn't buy it again. But I mean, it's. I came up for seclusion, because at that time in the middle 80s, I was fighting, literally fighting in the courts with one of the big mafia families in New York, and they were trying to kidnap my kids.
Wow, why?
Oh, because they made an investment in a company that I controlled, unbeknownst to me. And the guy, said, with Peña, you'll never lose your money. And that's not what you tell a mafia don. All he heard is, you'll never lose your money. And then oil went from $41 a barrel to $6 a barrel, and everybody involved, including myself, got wiped out. And all the money was lost. And as he said so eloquently in court, I want my money.
So you literally moved.
Yeah, but I didn't run away from the financial responsibilities, but it's easier for me to take care of my kids here and keep them from getting kidnapped than it was where I lived in an urban area in the United States. Wow. I had the former head of security for the Royal Yacht Britannia was the head of my security detail here. We had, real guys. Of course, the kids used to play with them. Kids didn't know anything. They just thought we were at a big Disneyland.
And do you mind telling us how much you paid for the castle?
No, well, that I won't tell you.
No?
First of all, a trust bought it. It's still owned by, actually it just got transferred into our foundation. I don't own it anymore. I haven't owned it since 1987. a trust where I'm the beneficiary now, where our children and grandchildren are the beneficiaries. But I can tell you this, I put tens of millions into it.
Just to keep it going.
Well, I didn't know what rising damp was. I didn't know what wet rot was, dry rot. I didn't know what and I had them all. I had them all.
Yeah.
And and we had problems with staff for 40 years. Now, this is a country club job.
Is that because you call them cunts all the time?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Well, they leave.
You know, in fact, when I walked in, I said, what's the name of this cunt again? You. And then my staff gave me a paragraph like, I already read that this morning. I don't need it. No, you know, he and I share something. I have a Guinness Book of Records too, but
Do you really think people are cunts, or are you just trying to be strong because everyone's being weak?
They're cowards. That's a better word.
Yeah.
Also starts with C.
And what makes people cowardly?
Because fear is false expectations appearing real. You're feared, as they say up here, of the unknown. But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because you've never experienced it. You might think it's death-defying. It's not. It's not. I mean, things that I do on a daily basis would probably give you diarrhea. I don't even think about them.
Like?
Closing down companies with thousands of employees. Of course they have mortgages. Of course they have milk. But, you know, I'm not here to lose money for my investors or me. And I'm not involved in the running and gunning like I was a long, long time ago. But I certainly know how to do it. The world is soft. It just is. It is. I predicted in 1980, when the wall came down, 1989, 90, I said, we're going to go back to Mad Max. Mel Gibson movie. Mm. That's where we're headed.
Apocalypse.
Yep.
You really believe that?
With all my heart. Somebody's going to make a mistake. Some young lieutenant, and he's going to push a button, as my wife would say, my Yorkshire wife, and it's going to land someplace, and before they have time to make an excuse like they did for the crash landing of the helicopter with the head of the number 2 guy in the Iranian government, several other people are going to push buttons. That's how it's set up. We have about 4,000 or 5,000 nuclear weapons on the planet. It's only going to take about 50.
What do you think then about your children? You know,
God love them. Hopefully my blood strain will be enough to keep them going.
Have you been hard on them?
Beyond your wildest imagination.
But this is still in their trust. Will they be?
No. Yeah, this is in the trust. You're absolutely correct. In fact, Sally and I went to cash when I turned 60 years old, 18, 19 years ago. We're 100% cash, except for this estate. This estate is in the trust, but it's the only thing that's not cash.
Now? You're in cash now?
I have been for 17 years.
But what about all the inflation through 2020? Wipe it out 10% plus a year?
I know you didn't come over here for me to insult your intelligence. But anybody that worries about inflation is either poor and not making any money or listens to the fake news too much.
Can you explain why?
Yeah, I can explain why. High performance people like me just make more money. Someone like me isn't interested in a return on my investment. I'm interested in a return of my investment. The easiest thing for me to track and make sure that I get back is cash.
But how do you how do you make 10% return on cash?
I don't.
What do you do then?
My investments, the things that I invest my time and money in, bring me percentages in the hundreds.
So you're not in cash, you're in assets?
No. All my assets went to cash. Everything from my 60th birthday on that I invested time in, I got ownership in. That's not in cash. Those are in ownership in 25 companies that I've helped found over the last 15, 20 years.
For years, people have been asking me where I buy my watches. Many of you may know I'm a watch collector, I'm a watch investor, and those as an asset class have done me very well in the last 15 years. I have never shared where I source my watches from or my watch dealer until now. My watch dealer used to be a professional footballer for Manchester United, and he formed a watch brand called Broadwalk, and he sources the higher end brands like Rolex, Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe and Richard Mille. I trust him, I've used him for many years, and recently we've done a partnership. Hence I'm inviting you, if you want to start investing in watches and protect your money from the banks and inflation, to check out Broadwalk. That's BROADWALK. And the website is broadwalkgroup.com. The email is sales@broadwalkgroup.com. And please don't share this, but his number is 07496 878 153. Obviously, only message him if you're serious about buying and investing in the higher end watches. People have been asking me for years, and for the first time ever, you can get access to my watch dealer. And so what's the reason for you being that liquid for that long?
When you leave here, I want you to go back and look on YouTube, and I've got 2 or 3 links, I think, to 100-foot wave, 200-foot wave, 1,000-foot wave. When the big tsunami comes and wipes all your savings away, if you have any.
Well, no, because savings get wiped out by inflation.
No. The people that kept their money under their bed are going to be better off than you. You follow me?
Well, you don't know anything about my investment.
Well, you just said. I just asked you and you said, no, I have investment because if I have it in cash, I'd be wiped out by inflation. Now, you just said that.
Well, no, I asked you why you would have it in cash if inflation is...
Because I'm not worried about inflation. I'm worried about the return of my cash, not a return on my cash.
i.e. you're worried about just getting it back in the first place?
Yeah. So why put it in something that may or may not be there 5 years from now?
Like the banks?
Well, there's 2 or 3 relatively safe banks, only 2 or 3. I'm not here to tell you who they are, but there are only 2 or 3, and there's only maybe 2, possibly 4 currencies that are worth looking at to have your money in cash in that currency in one of the 2 or 3 banks.
Is the dollar still?
Yeah, the dollar will be king forever.
You don't think China will be reserve currency one day?
No, that's all.
Why?
Because
nothing can be reserved forever. I mean, the pound was a reserve currency for a while. I'm sure they thought forever.
No, I don't.
Even the Byzantine Empire, what was it, thousands of years?
No, the Byzantine and the Persians and the Romans, you're in error. They didn't think it was going to be for air. There's 2 agendas from governments. That's the agenda they put out to the meatheads, and
you mean
their
the mass
agenda.
populace?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then there's their real agenda.
Yeah, which is to make money off the mass populace, surely.
No, it's really to keep their jobs.
For the people in government to keep their own jobs.
Correct.
Yeah, but surely the people are their product, aren't they?
No, I don't agree with that. People are not their products, okay? The people in office are a product of them getting elected by the meatheads. Yeah, you don't get in office today, except for in Russia and a few other places, unless you get elected.
Yeah, true. But I mean, Rishi and Liz Truss weren't elected by us. They got
that's a quirk in your political system here.
Yeah.
Rishi was rich before he became prime minister, and Liz Truss is now rich since she became prime minister for all the money she gets to speak. Okay, it's the same difference.
Seems like the main reason they want to be prime minister.
Well. Most people get into politics for the wrong reason. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. Because does anyone actually want to make positive change anymore in politics? Do they want a good healthcare service? Do they want a good police service? Do they want entrepreneurs? I mean...
They say they do, but
they don't.
Who's
coming to the UK now entrepreneurially? What foreign money is coming to the UK? It's all leaving, isn't it?
Correct. Not all, but a lot of it.
Yeah. Doesn't that make you sad? I mean,
no, why should it make me sad?
I suppose you weren't even born in England, were you? So I suppose it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. I'm a UK citizen. I would see, unlike they asked the city.
Okay, angry then. Sad, angry. Does it not make you feel something?
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
You just couldn't care?
No, it's not that I just couldn't care, but I don't, I have better things to worry about with the rest of my life. I just do.
So do you then just think, all this going on doesn't matter, because I'm an entrepreneur. I've got loads of companies, and I've just
No, don't put words in my mouth.
There was a question. It wasn't.
Okay. You make it sound like it's you're restating something I said. If the human race, after 45 or 50,000 years of being around, can't figure it out, it's not for a guy who's about to be 80 that's running out of runway that has done tremendous good for the planet by creating $1 trillion, more than 1 million millionaires, tens of millions of jobs. I got other things to worry about. I have other things that are more pressing to Dan Peña as a person. Sally and I have been giving our money away the last 10 or 12 years. It's harder to give money away properly than to make it. It's harder to give money away than to make it. Because I won't say 75% of the charities aren't bogus, but their main objective isn't necessarily divvying out money to the needy.
So, therefore, you start your own foundation.
Well, and we found 5 or 6. For example, Saint Teresa, and I put my money on her before she was a saint, when she was Mother Teresa. 99% of all the money given to that nunnery goes to the starving, to the sick, to the lame. 99%. They don't have cell phones. They don't have cars. They don't have TVs. All the land's donated. And we have been working with them for almost 20 years. Okay. Holy Family of Nuns, 90% of all the money that they collect goes to the kids. Okay. Whereas some of the other charities that we looked at, we always ask for financials. When we're going to contemplate giving money away, all the money for 2024 has already been given away, but now for 2025, we ask them for financials. We get, not daily, that would be an exaggeration, weekly requests. How many people do you think give us their financials?
30%.
2%.
2%.
2. Why do you think that is?
Because most of the money isn't going to where it's supposed to go.
Correct.
Because it's going to the people running the charity.
You know how many people ask for financials?
10%.
0%.
But that sounds like the government. Most of our tax money goes to them.
You took the words right out of my mouth. And we asked because, Sally and I are sophisticated investors, and we want the money to go where you get the biggest bang for your buck. And if they don't even want to give you the financials, you look at ABC charity in London, in the city. Maybe 50% goes to where it's supposed to go. 20% is on golf tournaments, black tie balls, et cetera, journeys to Jerusalem, first class for everybody or wherever they're going to go to see Mecca. And so the money doesn't go to where it's supposed to go. And we've been struck off more charity lists because we've asked for financials. And then we're on because they find it insulting that they should be questioned. Sir Percy and Dame so-and-so should be questioned about how they spend the money. Well, nobody's questioning them. Just imagine if we could question where the money went for government.
Well, none of them would have a job.
Thank you.
So what are some dying traits of successful people?
Well, asking hard questions. I just wrote 2 of the leading newscasters on UK television in the last 10 or 15 days. 2 gals, both stalwart reporters with journalistic awards. And I asked them why they didn't ask different questions and why they had people. And I preface it by, I know you have to fill time and your producers pick these people and interview. I understand that. Okay. But beyond that, why don't you ask hard questions? And in some cases, I believe the 2 journalists really didn't know the hard questions. Okay. And it was about Rwanda. And it was about when Rigby cornered the head of the labor, Sir Keir, right? Starmer?
Keir Starmer.
Yeah. So no more flights to Rwanda. She asked him 7 different ways. And finally, at the end, he says, no more flights to Rwanda. And you're even going to cancel the ones that are scheduled. And she went on and on and on. And I said, that's how you should treat every person, like a defiant witness. But not many newscasters do that. Most newscasters throw softballs. Because how are you going to get the prime minister back on? How are you going to get so-and-so back on if you just throw hardballs? Okay, so I understand they have to fill up time, okay? I would argue that they're filling up time with shite. You know, and are the people that stupid? I don't know. Apparently so. I mean, a good question is the SMP up here. Why do they keep reelecting these thieves? 24 months ago, I got on I forget the TV program down south, and I said, ultimately, the first minister's gone, the CEO is gone, somebody else is gone, and they should go to jail. And look at all that's happened. And I was right about it all. But nobody listened to me. The one TV guy that put me on, I think it was ITV, he almost got fired over it because it was live TV. They couldn't cut me. Okay? We're here. Do you realize how people laugh about Scotland? In the real world?
What do they say?
They're lame. They're lazy.
Do you agree?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, so asking hard questions, that's what successful people do. What else?
Throw me a few.
Yeah, well, what else? Throw you a few hard questions? Okay. What's this millionaires thing? Like, can you prove
Yeah, I can prove it. We have data.
What is it?
In 1992, when I got thrown out of the company I founded, Great Western Resources, back up, 1991, Kuwait was invaded by Iraq. Okay, you're old enough to remember that, okay? Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, my biggest shareholder in my company that I founded was the Kuwaiti government. 29.9% they owned. So when Iraq invaded Kuwait, the share price of my company, the public company on the London Stock Exchange, went down 85% in London. Okay? Nobody owned more of that stock than me. I owned about 50% of it, so I lost hundreds of millions. Okay. The shareholders wanted blood, so they threw me out under the bus, and I got thrown out in the beginning of 1992. I then, in 1992, spent the whole year deciding what I was going to do. And a good friend of mine says, well, why don't you teach people how you turn $800 into $500 million? I thought about it for about 5 minutes, and I said, okay. So I went around the country, the world actually, listening to other people spout their. And I decided in 1993, 31 years ago this month, that I was going to raise $1 trillion in equity through my mentees and myself, and create 1 million millionaires. That's what I said. Okay. That came to fruition in November of 2017.
So how do you define a mentee? Because you haven't had 1 million people come to this castle.
No. I haven't. But I also say 99% of the people that use QLA, my methodology, which is not my methodology, which is Andrew Carnegie's methodology that I've modernized a little, haven't met him. But we get endless emails and have for 31 years. I just made 11 million. I just made 10 million. We've got over 50 billionaires that credit my methodology, or Andrew Carnegie's methodology, which we call QLA, to them getting rich. But on November the 6th, 2017, one of my mentees, who I trained, Dr. Klaus Kleinfeld, did the largest deal in recorded history. $500 billion NEOM, the city of the future, as a joint venture with Saudi Arabia. So even though we knew we were over $1 trillion before that, they used to call me the $50 billion man because I had two guys that could stand right here in front of a camera, on a hand on the Bible, and say, I made $50 billion because of Dan QLA. So if I ever had to go to court to prove it, I could prove it. But on November 7th, 2017, when the $500 billion deal was announced, it threw us way over $1 trillion. And so, i.e., one of the pundits, podcasters, a few of them, namely the guy from London Real, Brian Rose, put two and two together and connected the dots. Well, Dan's over $1 trillion now. And so then I got the nickname, the $1 Trillion Man, okay, which is true. And so and if you take all the people that have come to the website from the beginning, we have way over, we have 1 million a year, let alone 1 million, and we have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of email testimonials saying we just got one this morning from a dentist in Australia who has made, who was arrested, a drug addict. He wasn't a rapist or a pedophile, but he had all the other credentials of being a first-class asshole. Made $17 million in 22 months, and so that's where this nickname, but it happens to coincide with the facts.
So are you taking the credit for their success?
Absolutely.
So they did it only because of you?
That's what they say.
All of them? Because
100%.
Don't you still have to take action? You know of the shelf development world. You can lead a horse to water. They still need to go out and take the action.
Probably for every 10 people that start, one actually finishes successfully. If that's what you're getting at.
Well, it's just normal, isn't it?
Yeah,
most people don't.
The only caveat to that is I have a proclivity for attracting high-performance psychopaths. That when
Are you
a
psychopath then?
Yeah, probably.
How do you define yourself a psychopath?
Well, enough podcasters have called me that. I guess maybe that's in the Guinness Book of Records too.
But you wouldn't agree with them just because they said it, would you?
No, but I have a lot of the traits.
Which are?
I never give up. I'm single-minded. I have goals that have taken me 25, 30 years to complete. I'm never satisfied. I always strive for more. I've never asked anybody to do anything that I haven't already done myself. And up until probably 25 years ago, I had been the most successful result of my program. But now, I don't know if there's thousands, but there's certainly hundreds of people that have created more wealth than I have, i.e. Klaus Kleinfeld, 500 billion, which is now up to 2.3 trillion.
So with all this you've achieved in your life, are you happy?
Yeah.
So you said earlier, when you looked into teaching other people how to make money like you did, you saw a lot of other people spouting all their... What sort of did you see spouted? Do you mean personal development?
Well, I differentiate. I'm not a personal developer, okay? But no, the biggest lie, the biggest bit of fake news that they tell people, and they have a reason because they want to sell you something else, is it's easy. It's not easy. It's almost impossible. But it is possible. It's almost impossible, though.
So I find this a paradox. I'd love your thoughts on this. Because statistically, we know that most people won't be successful, but you make a living out of helping people become successful. So you're looking at someone going, statistically, you're probably going to fail.
I tell everybody they're going to fail. When they come to the seminar, you're all going to fail.
Why do you tell them that?
Because it's the truth.
So why do you take their money?
Because if you want it more than you want air in your lungs, you can succeed geometrically. Because that's the real answer.
So you know most of them will fail, but if they want it enough, you can teach them how to be successful.
No. All my material is free on my website. I don't teach them a thing when they come here.
Why do they come here then?
Talk about paradoxes?
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So can you answer that?
No, I can't. I really can't.
You can't because you don't know or you don't want to?
No, it has nothing to do with me not wanting to. I mean, for 30 years they've come here.
How much do they pay?
I just checked before I walked in. The regular seminar is £27,000.
And do they stay here as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone pays £27,000, and how long are they here for?
A week.
And they're learning nothing that they couldn't learn for free off you online.
And I've said that a million times, would be an exaggeration, but at least 10,000 times.
So why do they come?
Maybe you'll be able to find out for me.
It definitely intrigues me. That maybe there must be an experience element then. I mean, do people want to be paying £27,000 just to be called a cunt all day? Do you think they enjoy that?
You'd have to ask them.
Yeah. But do you not get feedback from them? Do they not tell you why
they're
drinking?
No, we stopped asking for feedback and testimonials 15 years ago.
Why?
Because they were always the same. It's like on my website. I've never looked at it myself, but my staff tells me. On Facebook, we get the same recurring 10 or 12 questions, not dissimilar to the question you're just asking me. Why did they come? To get beat, degraded? And I didn't have an answer 15 years ago, and I don't have an answer today.
Is there a reason you talk to them like that?
Because it works. But I can give you history. When I started my first seminar in May 1993, and I gave it at the Sheraton Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, I probably only used foul words 5 or 6 times in 12 hours, okay? And we've experimented with 5 or 6, maybe even 10 formats for the seminar. And there's 3 or 4 things that after about 10 or 12 years that we figured out. Number one, when the kids are here and then they leave and go out into the ugly, vicious world, the kids are significantly more successful if they've experienced the castle. Now, is it the castle and me or just me? Okay, we've never been able to ascertain that 100%, but the kids say it's, it's the nuances of what you say. Nuances can only mean there's only one thing that's not on the website, although we publish almost the entire seminar on YouTube. Every week we have a seminar, and the only thing is perhaps some of the stories or tidbits. That's the only thing that's not on the website. Okay, and we have people. One of our most successful devotees, who's created about 500 million euros in his career, has been to the seminar 8 times. The 8th time he brought his wife. Okay, another Hall of Famer has been to the seminar 13 times. No discount, no just okay. We have several of the people that have been here 2 or 3 times. I just got an email from a kid, a current superstar from Austria, who's created about 500 million euros in 2.5 years. He says, I need a fresh up. I think that means another seminar, because default's a bitch. We're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Okay, most it's maybe a mom, maybe a part-time dad, maybe traveling or maybe he left, a brother, a sister maybe, a grandparent, if not a sister, the guy next door. Now, how do those 5 people know anything about creating a high-performance person? They know 0, i.e. you get 0. And even in new math, when we ask the questions, what's the highest performance thing your grandparents ever did? Nothing. What's the highest performance thing your parents ever did? Nothing. What's the highest performance thing your siblings ever did? Nothing. Even in new math, 0, 0, and 0 is 0, i.e. they've created nothing.
Are you a billionaire?
No.
Can you share your net worth?
No, it's on my website. It's on the YouTubes.
So if it's on there, why can't you say
Well,
that?
why don't you do more homework and look it up?
Because I like to come with a.
Well, fine. You can't. You're not going to get an answer to that question.
Okay, but I should still ask it.
Fine, you should.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you should have done in your career you didn't. So this is just one more.
Yeah. There's some things I've done that were good. I mean, I've known of you for 18 years.
Known who?
Known of you.
Really?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Someone handed me one of your white manuals, and he said this guy is better than you had. It was like a white manual. He just said to me, this guy, he knows about success. You need to study people like him and not people like Tony Robbins. And I think he thought you were more real, I suppose, and less hypey and rah-rah.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty rah-rah, though.
Are you? But
I mean, I believe in what I say, and I think I say what I think, and that to me is rah-rah.
Yeah, but your seminars aren't all jumping up and down.
No,
all energy
we don't have
and
any
music
of that.
and all
we
of
don't
that.
Do that. We don't do that.
No.
No.
How do you keep your energy high at your age?
Well, I've been saying for 30 years, I was born ready. I just have a high energy level, and I normally give my testosterone speech, but this is.
So you don't need any TRT or anything like that?
What's that?
Like people inject testosterone, don't they?
No. But 10 years ago, a Chinese doctor from Hong Kong asked me the same question. Cute as a bug in a rug. And and I just got my medical, whatever the reports, you know, in my bloods. And I said, I think my blood was 18 or 1900. Good testosterone is between 3 and 6 or 700. And your testosterone peaks out when you're about 25 or 26. And by the time, I was 70 then. By the time you're 80, you're not producing any testosterone. So modern medicine says. So, and she said, that's not possible. So during the lunch break, I went in and we went through the archives and we pulled out my last 2 medical reports. And one said 1910, and one said 2490. And she looks at it. And I don't know if I've never had it that high, 2490 again, but I certainly had it 1500, 1800 more times than I got gray hair in my head. I have, you know, I went to my 60-year high school reunion a few weeks ago. Now this is a Trump exaggeration, but most of my classmates look like my father and mother. That's exaggeration, but not by much. You know, I've had high energy all my life. Now, as I've gotten older, since I'm turned about 75 or 76, full disclosure, I take a nap in the afternoon, not every afternoon, between 20 and 30 minutes. Well, so now I'm told they're vogue, power naps. I didn't know that, you know? I didn't know they're vogue. Now, when I get done with you guys, I'm gonna go take a nap. Not because I expended any energy, I don't think, but it's you know, I work on a clock system. But getting back, I've always had high energy. And most of that energy turned to bad things when I was a kid, got arrested, thrown in jail, you know, did some ugly growing up. In the military, saved my life. I volunteered for the draft and I went in a private, came out an officer. I found somebody that knew how to structure my energy. And I love the military. And then one day, towards the end of my first tour, a 3-star general said, Peña, a young boy like you could get wealthy in the civilian world. I still remember it. I get chills thinking about it. And a light bulb went off over my head. I was out of the Army in 6 months. And the rest is history.
Do you think you'll ever retire?
No. I want to die, well, I want to die doing a deal, having sex with my lovely wife. As she's pointed out several times, I won't have sex with you while you're on the phone.
And are you still actively involved in your companies? You're still doing deals?
I have 24 companies. 21 are active, 3 are dormant.
How many hours a day do you work?
50? Oh, a day.
Yeah.
I work 50 to 60 hours a week.
And do you get up early?
No.
No.
No. I get up late, but I'm up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning because most of the companies, in fact, all but 2 are in a different time zone. So I'm in contact with them. Normally early in the morning here. I watch BBC News at midnight, which comes from Singapore, I think. And then I see the weather. And then I normally 1 drink a night. Some nights I don't drink at all. But if I want to stay up to 2 or 3, I normally have a drink.
What would you say is your biggest failure in business in your whole career?
For about 8 or 10 years, I thought I was a country squire.
Living here?
Yeah, like that painting right there. That famous painting that's up there. I thought I was him. And I kind of lounged around like a lazy ass Lord Percy. Now, me lounging around like Lord Percy and a real Lord Percy shitbag are 2 different people, because I was still working 30, 40 hours a week then. But I wasn't working as hard because I haven't had to work in 40 years. And and I've been asked by other podsters, are you a podster?
I'm more than just a podcaster, but it's one of the things I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
By other guys and gals, how do you get up in the morning? Because meaning most people get up, either go to the bathroom or work. Only time I get up in the morning is to take a piss, and then I go back to sleep. So there was about an 8 or 10 year period that I didn't go pedal to the metal, running towards the gunfire, and but that's a long time ago. That time has passed. So I'm still energetic. I, fly around, go to meetings. But what has saved me, more or less, is Zoom calls. Without Zoom calls, because I still can take on another chairmanship, because now it's not okay with me, but it's okay in running a business to have your meetings by Zoom. But I like face-to-face. You really get a much better lay of the land.
Yeah.
And I like the lay of the land. One of the questions that, getting back to that 8 or 10 year period, what woke me out of that 8 or 10 year period is when I went to China to meet with the sovereign fund of China. And they asked me for advice. And I realized that 2 or 3 years had passed me by. And so then I got active again. But I've given advice to the 3 largest sovereign funds in the world: Norway, China, Kuwait. And so why do they ask me? Why don't they ask the other gurus? I know why.
Why?
Because I'm super smart. And I got a track record second to none. That's why.
Do you ever take
I was the only guy on the planet that called negative oil in 2020. Dan Peña called negative oil. I thought we'd go negative 25, 24. We went negative 37. How's that possible? Because I'm super smart.
Now, I've been on a mission for 17 years to help as many people on this planet get better financial knowledge. If, like me, you'd like to make, manage and multiply more money, I recommend that you join my digital financial freedom platform. It's really easy to join. You just type in rob.team. There you're going to learn my 4 M's of making, managing, maintaining and multiplying more money. And the even better news is there's no risk to you, because it costs less than 20 pence a day to join. You can cancel anytime. Join right now. I'll also give you my 12-week Money Mastermind University completely for free. It's about 14 hours of what they should teach you at school and university about money, but the banking system and the governments control you and don't want you to know that. It exposes the banking system and teaches you how to play them at their own game. If you join rob.team right now, you get that completely for free. Just type in rob.team. We'll see you inside with the 10,000 other members in rob.team. What makes someone super smart?
I've been in 10,000 meetings, 100,000 phone calls, and I've made at least 250,000 decisions, business decisions.
How do you count all these numbers?
Well, up until
you track them all.
Up until my 75th birthday, I tracked everything I did. Don't anymore. My numbers are so far ahead of the competition, if you want to call it that. There's nobody that can even compare.
Is that where you get your happiness from?
I do. That's a good point.
Beating your competition or being successful? No,
it's not beating the competition, because I've been ahead of the competition almost my entire career. But it's making the right calls at the right time for people like you to benefit from. See, I don't believe, when I got here in 81, no, actually, when I got here, when I was with NATO as an officer in 67 and 68, I mean, the class structure was even greater. Okay, if you were Sir Percy and you went to Eton and then you went to Cambridge or Oxford, that was it, okay? But when I came back to live here in 81, and then ultimately buy a place here in 84, the class structure was still in place. And I won't say I shredded the class structure, but a guy that went to school, a place you got to explain about, and an American with a loud mouth, I was very successful in the city because nobody has ever pushed the boundaries like I did back in those days. And so, but I did in the United States. You don't have to come from a wealthy pedigree. You don't have to. It's better to have some education. But me going to university probably didn't accomplish much. Because I went out of my way to be around super smart people. I went out of my way and listen to them. And today's kids have grown up behind the computer, and so their interpersonal skills suck. Their communication skills suck. their speaking skills suck even more because they don't have the experience. And they realize that. They all say like this when you talk to them. But do they do anything to change their lifestyle or their business habits? Very few, as you alluded to 20, 30 minutes ago. Very few.
And do you think it's because they've just had it too easy?
Yeah, I do. Not a lot of people haven't had it easy. Our kids, we raised hard, but I could have been harder. I probably overdid some of the strictness that I made them comply with. But our kids are successes in normal standards. They're in the top 2% of their age groups. They make income in the top 1% of their age groups. Are they me? No.
And are you happy and okay that they're not you, or did you want them to be?
Well, in a spirit of candor, when we first had kids, I wanted them to be little me's. And then I realized over time, Sally would say too much time, that they're not going to be little me's.
Because they're their own individual people.
Correct.
And you came to terms with that. You were okay with that. You didn't feel like you failed them because they weren't as successful.
No. I don't. In no way, shape, manner, or form do I feel bad that they didn't turn out me. I realize now, after over 50 years in business, that there are not too many of me. Even though they had exposure to my father, their grandfather, who was hard as around them, he wanted to bounce him on his knee and, didn't expect too much of him. But, they're successful. But they're young still, 42, 41, and 37. The girl's 37 who was born here. Who was born here.
Do you think parents need to be harder on their kids today?
I know it because I see the results. I see what the kids turn out to be when you're not. Kids want leadership, and they get very little in this world. Because at the end of the day, not necessarily you, but people of your generation, and if they're younger, their generation, would rather be liked than effective.
And that's the problem. Is that weakness then?
Yeah, to me it is.
Isn't it important to be liked by some people, though? You can't piss everyone off, can you?
No, it's not, as my grandmother told me on her dying bed when she was 97, Danny, always tell the truth. And if the truth doesn't hurt, it's not the truth. I've lived my life by that. The truth always hurts.
You mean hurts yourself, hurts other people?
Other people.
Everyone. Yeah. But it's
how many times have you heard, my friend wouldn't tell me that because he's my friend? Okay? Yeah. I don't live in that world.
But your truth is only your truth, isn't it? It's not necessarily the
Yeah,
truth.
But I mean, not everybody, but almost everybody I'm associated with knows my truth is likely to be what the Lord knows.
And is the Lord part of your success? Do you believe that your success comes through you and what you've done, or a higher power?
It's what I've done, but I believe in a higher power. I wanted to be a priest when I was young.
And what does the higher power do for you? How does it help you?
I can't tell you directly. I just know that I've been saying my prayers every night since I'm 6 years old. I still say them. I said them last night. I prayed for you, that you wouldn't ask, dumb questions.
We'll see at the end what you think.
Yeah, well, you can ask me now. I can tell you what I think now. I don't have to wait till the end.
Okay. So when you pray,
yes, sir.
Do you pray to thank and to be grateful, or do you pray for intention for things to happen?
Neither. I pray for example. The first 5 people on my prayer list: the President of the United States and all the armed forces that are in harm's way. Okay? Now, since I'm a UK citizen, the Prime Minister and the President of the United States, of which neither one I agree with what they say, and the people we have in harm's way, the guys in the military. Okay? The second, third, fourth, and fifth are my kids, my grandkids, my mother-in-law, my wife, And then I've got a list of, guys that I know that are as old as me or a little older that aren't that healthy. I don't know anybody as healthy as I am at my age.
So is it hard for you then to keep finding successful people, because the theme here is finding high performance people, pushing you to it's not. You don't know your high performance until you go through this, because the other benchmarks for high performance are not high performance to me. So when you say go through this, do you mean
the week seminar?
Your QLA?
Yeah. Or we have guys that have made tens of millions, hundreds of millions, and never came to the seminar. I told you about the dentist guy from this 20, 30 minutes ago, and he wrote me a long email, and he says confidential on it. And he lists all these tremendous things he's accomplished. So I wrote him back, why do you send me this confidential? Don't send me your successes unless I can share them. God bless you, congratulations, keep running towards the gunfire. And then I got a response. I didn't read the response before I came in here. I mean, he's done some fabulous things for a 34-year-old guy that got convicted of drug peddling and almost lost his dental license. And I tell the kids to share them now. Maybe 10% of them share their success stories with me, maybe 20%. But sometimes it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years. The longest we've had from the seminar or contact with me to success, 13 years. Shortest, 26 days. 26 days. And the 26-day guy, when I show him the webinar to the students here, how many of you would like to be like, and I call him the pig, how many would like to be the pig flicker? Nobody raises their hand. Not one swinging dick in the audience would change to be him for wealth. There's some limit at what you won't go past. That's just it. Now, I'm not talking about killing your mother. I'm not talking about that. At some limit, everybody has a line. If it's not a spoken line, it's a subconscious line, or as the psychiatrist would call it, sub rosa line, that we won't go beyond. And hence, like a lot of people go to school because their mother wanted them to be a doctor, right? I finished college, not because I needed it, because my mother didn't have anybody in her side of the family that ever went to university and finished. So when I came back from the military, I went back and I graduated with honors, I might add, which nobody talks about in this country. Yeah, you actually put honors after your, when I first saw that, what the fuck's that mean? That's a whole other self-esteem issue. Most Brits have low self-esteem.
Why?
Tradition.
What does that mean?
You know what the word tradition means?
I do, but there's a lot of context of that word. So
well, I'm telling you the simplest context. It's like you don't want to talk about money if you're rich here.
I love talking about money.
Well, you're not rich.
Well, it depends on who you compare me to.
Well, unless my information is 100% inaccurate, you wouldn't be considered wealthy in the group that comes here. Only one guy out of 25 is wealthy that comes here.
Well, that's all depends on who you compare yourself to. You definitely don't know what I'm worth, because there is no way you can find out what I'm worth online, just like when I asked you.
No, I didn't say online, did I?
Well, how else would you find out what I'm worth? Because you definitely haven't phoned me up.
How does MI6 find out? Or how does MI5 find out?
Well, I don't even know that they would know what I'm worth. I mean, I'm 45. You're nearly 80.
45?
Yeah, I'm 45. You're nearly 80. By 99.9 recurring % of 45s, I'm more wealthy than 99.99%. I am pretty confident in that. So I would define myself as rich.
Well, you have low standards then.
Everything is relative. Or maybe I'm just starting out. I've only been doing this 18 years. You said your kids are young, so I'm young. So I've still got
my kids are younger than you.
Only
42,
just.
41, and almost 38.
Yeah. So,
you are young.
Yeah. So I still have lots
But in the new internet woke world, you're old.
Well, I don't really care what they think.
Okay, well, I mean, you
So if they can call me old, I think I have a lot of experience. You know, well, any punk can make a load of money in crypto overnight and not build the skills to hold on to.
And most of them don't have the skills.
Yeah, because you have to build wealth skills over time going through hard challenges.
Wealth is built on a series of transactions, i.e., including time. But the young kids today, I was on a pod in Las Vegas about a month ago with a 19-year-old alleged billionaire, crypto billionaire. He was late to the meeting. He changed venues. Well, I got the message 5 minutes before the meeting, but maybe he'll blame my crack staff, okay? And it was a circle jerk. Okay?
What's a circle jerk?
Where everybody masturbates in front of each other. A circle jerk. It was very popular back in the 60s. Just like, you know what's come back from the 60s? Jelly rolls. You know how everybody, you get up and hug each other? That was called a jelly roll in the 60s. Circle jerk, jelly roll. From a circle jerk, you went to a jelly roll.
Maybe that's what's wrong with the kids.
Well, yeah. Well, there's a lot of things wrong with the kids. If that
Are
was
the kids going to just watch this and just think you're some grumpy old...
Well, I mean, God love them. I'll be with them. I don't give a shit what they think. Maybe one person from your audience, maybe none. I'm normally a spike. Is this the right word? When you, excuse me, a spike in the eyeballs. What's it called? When you have you go from 10,000 views a day to 240,000. That's a spike, right?
Yeah.
I'm normally, not always, but normally a spike.
Why? Because you piss people off?
No, there's got to be more than a reason. I'm also, you know, if the average view is 10 minutes or 3 minutes and the interview is 60 minutes, I'm normally, 45 minutes. Either I continue to piss them off so they stay. I'm not sure the answer to that, okay? But those are things that I don't have any control over because I'm not going to change my modus operandi that has made me successful or allowed me to be successful over 53 years. I have no reason to change. Although the seminar changes every time I give it. It's a new seminar. We have 26 to 2,700 slides, and this last seminar I only used 90 of them. But the most I've ever used in the last 10 years is maybe 200. Because one time changes. Things that were important 10 years ago aren't important today. Things that have meaningful impact from the 90s are certainly not relevant, or not, most are not relevant in the 2020s. And so I continue to change it, and continue to update. And it's one of the things that allows me, not the energy, allows me the motivation. I don't want to continue to do it because every seminar we have, not every, statistics show me from 2000, I didn't take records from 2000 to 1993 to 2000, because I didn't think I was going to do it past 2000. And then when I decided to continue to do it, because it was going to be harder for me to create $1 trillion, I started taking copious records from 2000 through today. And those records show me that almost everything I tell you, when I say we have data to back it up, I do have data to back it up, because we have constant reviewing of the questions. How have the questions changed? One of the things I would recommend you do is take the tests on my website. They're 99% accurate. I didn't make up the tests. The tests were borrowed from 2 psychiatrists from Boston University from 25, 30 years ago, but they're spot on, the tests. One of the questions you asked me about, why do I think that people are getting soft? Okay, well, when we came out with the success tests about 20 years ago, one of the questions is if somebody approached you and smacked your girlfriend or wife, what would you do? There's 4 answers. One of the answers is I would try to ascertain his disposition for the day and what made him so irritable. And there's 2 or 3 other options. And then the last option is you pick up a brick and you beat him to death. 25 years ago, we had a 96% failure rate in the test. And it defines what the failure is, okay, what a failure rate is. And now we have a 98.5% failure rate. Very similar to the handshake of the woman and the man over the past 20, 25 years. It also tells you why. Last year, a woman was raped on the underground in New York City, and 45 people chose to take a picture of it with their iPhone, then help the old lady. It's the same. And you can go on and on and on, okay? I can't imagine 45 people sent on the fucking, nobody even called 911. In America, it's 911. Nobody even called 911. They were so engrossed in taking a picture. How's that possible? It's the decay. I mean.
Yeah, that makes me angry, that does.
Well, that does. You asked me about anger? That does. And, and Sally just hopes and prays, that doesn't happen when I'm around because, I mean, a lot of is going to happen. I still know how to kill somebody.
Have you killed someone?
Not recently.
So you have killed someone?
I just say not recently.
And how'd you kill someone?
I don't think that needs to be shared with you on your pod. But my favorite is biting them in the jugular vein.
Who controls the world's money?
If you're asking, does the Illuminati control it?
Just
well, I don't know if the Illuminati controls it. I know there's probably 15 or 20 super wealthy families and individuals that have more to say about the money. Jeff, Elon Musk, Bill, Warren stays away from that kind of stuff. Warren meaning Warren Buffett. But there are people that they go to ask about, the velocity of money and what does that mean, but no government that is now in 2024. No government because now news is almost instantaneous. Okay, good and bad news. And some people say bad news travels faster. I'm not sure about that. If it's like when they said that inflation was transitory a few years ago, the Federal Reserve, Chairman Powell. Now, anybody that believed that, any BBC newscaster, any Sky News had for brains. You can't print $13 trillion and have inflation transitory by definition. Yet every news head on every major TV station and radio station says the same thing. So that's how ill-equipped the financial experts, gurus on TV are to, separate wheat from the chaff. Our generator just went back on. Huh?
Do you think the media is essentially just a messaging outlet for higher people who control the world to just indoctrinate us how they want to indoctrinate us?
No, I don't believe that. But what I do believe is the media is got a very liberal bias, and that they would rather.
There's more fake news.
Yeah, well, they don't consider it fake. It's like when I asked those two famous journalists, why can't you have more truth? There were bits of truth that they were allowing to be on the two TV stations, but they were only bits. So
how do you know what to believe?
Well, you don't, and that's why I know some people that don't listen to the news. Don't listen to the news. I still listen to it. I find it, but I look at it as an entertainment. I have a chuckle.
You're not watching it for your business.
No. The Bloomberg, I watch for business, and CNBC for business when I want to follow the markets.
But I mean, that just makes me I just find that so ironic and funny that you watch the news for entertainment.
Yeah.
I.e., people watch the news for entertainment.
Well, I don't know.
It's not information, it's entertainment.
Well, I don't consider the information that accurate.
So doesn't that make a mockery of what is called the news? Because it's therefore not news anymore.
No. What really is a mockery is when they say breaking news. There's nothing breaking about it. It's a joke. Do you have any idea? This is a good question, perhaps, for your audience. Do you actually believe, audience and you, presenter, that the stuff that comes out of the city, the financial district of Britain, or Wall Street, or the equivalent thereof, is given any thought to absolute 100% accuracy.
Well, I'll let them answer that for a second.
Okay, okay, yeah.
I mean, is that even a metric for media accuracy?
Well, they have fact checks in America.
But BBC do their own internal fact checks.
Supposedly, yes.
That's not a fact check, is it?
No, that's true. And that's why, unfortunately, this thing about the blood that's 40 years old, people should go to jail.
But they won't.
No, yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Sorry.
They won't.
No, just like they won't for lockdowns. There'll be no proper trial for that. The Grey Report, yeah, nothing will happen.
The Brits are great at apologizing. White papers and then an apology, followed by an apology, and nobody...
nothing changes.
No, nothing changes. And they're not really held accountable other than through the white paper and somebody apologizing. And the current prime minister is going to apologize for stuff that happened on many other
I mean, to be fair to him, not that I like to defend, but it wasn't on his watch, was it?
Correct. And but it was carried forward partially on his watch when some of the information that they were looking for this investigative report, it wasn't. They intimated it was stonewalled, okay. But eventually, a report. I forget who said it. It was one of the famous leaders from the 40s or 50s said, eventually the Brits will do the right thing if put under enough pressure. I don't know, de Gaulle said that, or somebody said it, okay? And that's basically true. That's my experience, eventually. But by that time, it's a new generation, sometimes a new generation. In this case, it's a new 2 generations or 3 generations in the same 40 years that I've lived here. Up here, I mean, everybody's fat, dumb, and happy up here. I mean, they're just...
But you said surround yourself with high-performance people.
But I have never talked to any of my neighbors in 40 years, except for Mr. Osborne across the street, who used to share a ride when we used to take our kids to school in the morning. That's it. Not one single of these guys have I ever talked to. Although I've been at, supposedly, they tell me you've been at dinner parties or drinks parties, as they say up here, and they've been around. Nobody came in to introduce themselves. I've been considered a loose cannon for a long, because I say what I think. I say what I think.
Are you surprised you've not been cancelled?
Cancelled in what respect?
Well, shut down, have a lot of your content shut down, taken off the internet. I mean, but I know you've been on Brian Rose's show. That's just been shut down, hasn't it?
Well, he's been shut down, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you haven't been?
No. I've been on Joe Rogan's. I've been on a bunch of big, the podsters.
Have you had any threats?
I've had death threats, yes. I've currently got a file open. It's no secret. FBI's got a file open in America.
On you?
Yeah.
What
because
for?
of my death threats. I received death threats.
Oh. Yeah. And how does that make you feel?
It bothers me that I don't lose one iota of sleep.
You won't suppress your message. You won't be quiet. But even when there was threats to kidnap your children.
Well, I took action about that. Not the least of which is I moved here after a couple years of the shit. But that was when you have death threats, you find out who your friends are.
Most people just evacuate you, do they?
When the Kuwait was invaded by Iraq, and we had death threats for the board, public company board, many of the board members just signed their proxy to vote. It's your company anyway, Dan. We're not coming to the board meeting because, bomb threats and like that. And these are high-profile people.
Do you think maybe some of the big funds like BlackRock, Vanguard, they have a lot of money in a lot of the big companies. Do you think they have a lot of control, a lot of power?
Yeah, but not the kind of power that you would think. They don't have power other than getting on boards and trying to force the management to do a different thing, okay? And most of those changes are not all woke related, but almost all woke related. But they have the power. For example, it's gone unpublicized to the best of my knowledge. BlackRock, maybe Vanguard, and one other of the big funds are closing down their alternative energy funds. Now let's think about this for 20 seconds. 3 of the biggest managers of money on the planet in the history of the world have decided, they made a conscious decision, unpublicized, other than the shutting down, on alternative energy. Why? Why would they do that? I can tell you why. Well, because you know, I'm not infringing on your intellect, because they know that the long-term, intermediate and long-term rates of return aren't going to be there.
Well, why else would they put their money in or take their money out?
Because the story has changed. From Al Gore in 2008 said that by 2014, we were going to have no snow in the North and South Pole. That's what he said. And that was obviously a load of bollocks. Okay?
You got your wife's accent there, a load of bollocks.
If I told you that NATO and the International Monetary Fund came up with a report about a year and a half ago that said 3 things. Number one, it would take 130 years for genders to find equality on the planet. 130 years between men and women. Find equality, okay? And then they defined equality, okay? Then they defined equality as pay. And not 130 years, 250 years before men and women found equality in pay.
Why is that even a thing, though?
Because it's never going to happen.
Surely, pay should be based on who does the best job regardless.
Well, that's not what it's based on. Now, I'm not justifying it. No. I'm just telling you what the report said.
Yeah.
Okay? Would you believe if I told you that if we stopped January 1 this year, passed, and I asked students at, I forget which university this was, everything that the Greenpeace and alternative energy people want us to stop doing, to save the planet and the atmosphere, et cetera. If we stopped every single thing last January 1, you know how long it would take for the Earth to become net zero? 3,700 years. 3,700 years. We're through. Now, I'm not just some crazy old professor from Cambridge spouting this. And I can name study after study after study after study. We're through.
As in human race.
Correct. 3,700. When I asked the college kids that, and the girls were saying they were running around with placards. I'd go and party. I don't care what happens from 3,700 years from now. But it's not vogue. Woke is vogue. Because people would rather... Do you know why Charlie Munger, God rest his soul, and Warren Buffett had a management style that they alluded to when they were... Oprah Winfrey interviewed him a year and a half ago. And Charlie Munger said, and I knew this already, Charlie Munger said, Warren and I picked the only management style we could really live with. And so Oprah Winfrey asked, well, what's that? She says, non-confrontational. Warren and I can't stand confrontation. That's why we buy a company in the public market with never meeting the management. We take a state, we never talk to them, and we keep that stake in their company as long as they continue to follow the precepts that they led us to believe were important to them. Once they change their investment precepts or investment management style, we sell. No harm, no foul. All the investments Berkshire Hathaway has are the same. Management from afar, no confrontation. That's the height of woke. The aggressive guys, much more aggressive than me, take a stake and they change management, change the chairman, throw everybody, cause all kinds of turmoil. What is the most successful management style to date? Berkshire Hathaway, because they lead all the indices, okay? And so the world has now decided, rightly or wrongly, in my judgment, wrongly, that life should be non-confrontational. You can't say anything about anybody. It's a hate crime for me to call anybody fat. It's a hate crime for me in Scotland. It's a hate crime for me to call somebody bald. It's a hate crime, and that's not even considering the transgender and all the other things. We would rather be liked than effective.
But they've missed a whole piece out of that. All right, Warren and Charlie might not have liked confrontation, but there would be people in between and in between and in between who would have to have confrontation.
No, they don't fire. They don't fire anybody within the companies. But I do tell you how Charlie, God rest his soul, and Warren think about the future. When Sally and I attended an annual meeting 2 years ago, he was asked the question, they've already appointed the new CEO to take over when Warren's dead. He's a Canadian fellow, smart guy from the oil and gas business, but his vertical within oil and gas is exploration. Exploration meaning searching for oil and gas and drilling dry holes or not dry holes. The guy that runs the oil and gas division for Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, is in the last place he's to be a confrontational gunslinger of corporate world. And that's who Charlie and Warren have picked ahead of time to run those assets. Now, I'm told from people that know Warren, I don't know him personally, although I went to that meeting, is that they realize that their management style of no conflict worked for 60 years. But it may not work the next 60 years. So they're going to put a gunslinger in there, you know, fire, aim, whatever that thing is, you know, fire, aim, then aim.
Ready, fire, aim.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Because no confrontation. There was a book written in 1969 by a psychiatrist named Stein. I'm okay, you're okay. In my judgment, that was the beginning of the downfall of the human race, the publishing of that book.
Why? What was in it? What was it about?
It says, anything you want to do is okay with me, and anything I do is going to be okay with you. Cha-cha-cha. You can do whatever you want, and I'm still going to love you. It's like in a love story. You know, being in love is not having to say you're sorry or something like that.
Again, is this just a cycle?
It is a cycle
in life,
but it's going to last a lot longer than anybody thinks.
Yeah, because too much non-confrontation in the end, by definition, will attract confrontation.
I.e., Russia.
Yeah, because if everyone just rolls over and loves each other, then some country in the world is just going to come and kill and rape us all, aren't they?
Exactly.
So we're in this really interesting moment. Because I sometimes think, imagine if we all lived 500 years. If we lived 500 years, we'd have seen this 150 years ago and we'd know exactly what to do, wouldn't we? But we didn't. We go in through the cycles because we don't have long enough to learn. By the time you've built up all your knowledge, unfortunately, you're going to pass away and you can't live through those cycles.
That's why the programs like the Highlander, where he lives centuries, you know, okay. And each Highlander that comes back, you know, is, although you can live hundreds of years, you know, they come up with wisdom, but how do they use it? But now they're rewriting the history books in America. They're taking all the Civil War guys out, or a lot of them out, I should say. They're rewriting history here, tearing down statues, etc. They tore down statues in Roman times. I mean, you know, we didn't seem to learn too much.
Well, any creation has to have destruction within it by definition, doesn't it? If you let 1,000 staff go, like you said, or 10,000 staff, that's destruction to create something new. Isn't that just the natural order?
Well, part of that natural order, people don't want to admit it, is artificial intelligence is not going to create more jobs. If you think that, I've got a bridge to sell in New York. If you really think that, and I'm in cybersecurity, artificial intelligence business, if you really think that, what the f***'s wrong with you? So how is that possible?
You think it's going to take a lot of jobs?
Fucking A right! God almighty, what's wrong with you? You look at all these assembly lines that used to have 56, I just saw something late last night on Sky, 56 people in the assembly line, 4 robots that never get sick. They never cry about overtime. They never... But why do people want to believe that?
That what? That AI will create more jobs?
Yeah.
Because they're fundamentally lazy and want an easy life.
Exactly.
Because surely anyone smart's going to go, well, I'm going to figure out AI then. Because if you figure out AI, then, and you can build a business around AI, surely you're going to make a lot of money, aren't you? It's like, is it not like a new oil rush or gold rush?
Exactly. somebody likened it to land grab.
Mm.
One of my mentees, American, actually Canadian, in the last 4 or 5 years, he has acquired cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and he's gotten wealthy over it. He's 55. He just turned 55, and he was trying to explain to the kids in 2 seminars ago, but a lot of the kids want to believe that AI with robots is going to decimate what's left of unions. Now that goes over like a fart in a punch bowl.
Well, that sounds to me like a good thing, doesn't it?
Well, to me as well,
Yeah.
but not to the unions.
No.
There used to be 8 or 9 million people in unions in America 70 years ago, and now there's 2.3 million.
There was how many?
There's about 8 or 9 million in unions in America 50, 60 years ago, and now there's 2.5 million. There's so many opportunities right now. And of course, a whole other universe of making money has come to light, podcasts, etc. One of the reasons that staffing is so much more hard now, post-corona, is that the people that were doing menial jobs, perhaps, have decided, I don't want to do that menial job. I can get online and, I don't know how you get, I was just going to say, I don't know how you get paid on podcasts. That's not true. But I mean, it doesn't take much podcast eyeballs on your podcast to make minimum wage, which some of these people were making. And so that's what they're doing. It shouldn't be such a revelation. It's just, when you said, what makes you sad? To me, the stupidity of the average human being makes me sad. How can you be so dumb?
Is it because of what they've been fed in the media and the school
Absolutely.
system?
And the school system, and since I support some of those schools, and I told the principal as we're walking out, I said, oh my God, I would have never got, I used to be in the principal's office in grammar school before noon, at least 3 days a week, being scolded. And now they put you down with a pillow and they say, give you a pink bunny, and they says, that's not really you, Johnny. I know you didn't really want to hit that guy in the face. And here I dropped an aquarium from you would call it the first story here, on my teacher trying to kill him when I was 10 years old.
There's a paradox here, though, because, we've got all that, but then we've got all these school shootings all the time. Yeah. These people stabbing teachers and shit like that.
Well, stabbing.
It's like so divided.
There's so many stabbings in southern England because they don't have guns. If they had guns, there would be less stabbings and more shootings. Yeah,
also because the police is just completely defunded and inefficient. Correct.
And part of our security staff are ex-Scottish cops. And there's more new retirements being put in. And then when you get in trouble, the police used to say, rightly or wrongly, we got your back. Even if it was a bad shooting or a bad beating, we got your back. That's not the case anymore. Yeah. And I'm not saying they should make up lies to protect cops, but I mean, you're going to get fewer and fewer people that are police officers.
Why would you even want to be one then?
Exactly. I mean, the pay's pretty pathetic. And if you make a mistake, or they think you made a mistake by, hitting somebody or doing something, I mean, it's a thankless job. But I came up here because of the peace and tranquility. I came up here to be able to protect our kids more easily. I came up here because, I mean, there is no time in Shangri-La. I mean, I've been sitting, not necessarily in this chair, but in this room for 40 years. And you can just sit here and contemplate your navel. And we're 660 feet above sea level. So if global warming is for real, this place is going to be here 1,000 years from now, 550 years old. It's going to be here 1,000 years from now. My neighbors don't talk to me. I don't talk to them. The
podcasters come to your house.
Yeah, yeah. And giving interviews, in my living room isn't such a bad deal.
No.
The seminars are here. It's if the weather was like this, even though it's overcast today, there'd be 55 million people here instead of 5 million. When I moved here, there was 5 million people. 40 years later, there's still 5 million. I mean, it's a very tranquil place. Now, you're from
Peterborough.
Which is?
Just north of London. Yeah, 70 miles north of London.
What's there that I would know?
Nothing anymore. Nothing anymore.
There used to be manufacturing or something?
Yeah, just like most of the UK, there's not much of that anymore. There's nothing there. Yeah. Are you seeing some of your friends or people you know leaving the country for financial reasons? A lot of my friends, Alfie Best just left. If you're in the top 500 richest people in this country, there's always a tax investigation on you, full stop, end of. The taxes are so high. Are you seeing that?
I hear about it, but none of my personal mates, if you will. I know people, my law firms in America represent people that are going to leave if Trump gets elected.
But he's kind of pro-business though, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's very pro-business. Yeah. I predicted his likely agenda when he gets elected. He'll be in jail. He's going to pardon himself first. He's going to pardon the 3,000 or so guys that have stood up for him. Okay. Next, he's going to dissolve the Department of Justice completely and start from scratch. He's going to pull out of NATO, and he's going to end the war in Ukraine and Russia overnight.
And do you think these are good things?
Ending the war, yes. Pulling out of NATO is questionable. Dissolving the Department of Justice without a replacement, I would question. And pardoning himself and his mates, I don't see anything wrong with that. The sixth thing is he's going to make it so he can run again and be permanent president.
Do you think the tax system here is fair?
Fair is not a word I would use to describe it. It seems to me that the poor get taxed inordinate amount. I'm not in that category, but I know the people that work on the estate bitch about it, and where there's smoke, there's fire.
Well, because the difference between the poor and the rich is the poor can't do anything about it.
Correct.
The rich can.
Yeah, but they're made happy. You know, they get a lordship or a Sir Percy title, or not all of them get that, because otherwise everybody would be Sir or Lord. But they certainly get some sort of ancillary benefit. I've never been privy to any of those ancillary benefits, so I don't know. But I certainly know the people that I know that have gotten titles deserved them. 20, 30, 40 years of service, blah, 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 blah. But the government here, and I can't really speak to the new king, although I met the new king a long time ago when he was not the king. It's, again, people would rather be liked than effective. It's a human nature, that people, it's easier. You've heard this. If you can't say anything positive about the person, don't say anything. You've heard that, right? Mm. Okay. So I was raised kind of like that way, except my grandmother told me if you tell the truth, if it doesn't hurt, it's not the truth. So I had those two things. But me being truthful, 100% candid, has boded well for me. But it hasn't boded well for a lot of people that try to be mini-me's. I'm not suggesting anybody be mini-me. You have to have the personality, and you have to have rhino skin, as my wife would say, because I've been called a lot of different things. And probably the smartest thing my father ever taught me when I was growing up, Danny, it's not what they say about you, it's how you interpret what they say about you. And I've always been able to put a positive spin on it all my life, since I'm 7, 8, 9 years old. And that's boded well for me.
So does that mean when they criticize you, you can still turn that into a positive? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, because I sometimes think, someone's criticizing me, I look at them and go, do I want to be them? I go, no, therefore, that's good feedback, because I wouldn't want them praising me because I don't want to be like them. So I actually like the criticism from them.
But people that praise you they have normally at least two agendas. The agenda is to blow smoke up your ass, and the agenda is, well, what can I get back for the smoke that I just blew up his ass? And I haven't looked like that. I've been
So you don't need any praise?
No, I don't. I mean, I've had more.
Does it not feel good, though, to get praise?
No, not now. I mean, when I was first out of university on Wall Street, I worked for a firm, Bear Stearns, that was not, they didn't praise. They didn't believe in praise. They believed in money and how much you brought into the company, the corporation. It was actually a partnership then. And that's it. And so I learned the hard way. But in my neighborhood, the barrio that I came from, where that little grammar school that I support is even today, when they're telling a kid, that's not really you, Johnny, punching them in the face, and does the little kid really believe that? Well, if you hear it up until you're 25, you believe it. And when your parents are telling you, don't get in trouble. Whatever you do, don't get in trouble. Okay? And which my mother used to say, don't get in trouble. Keep your head down. But I still got in trouble. I rebelled because I knew that it was but we are where we are. And I think it's innovative that guys like yourself and other people have podcasts. I think it's innovative that people that don't want to go to work anymore have found second or third or tertiary jobs online. I think that's part of progress. Just as I know artificial intelligence is going to reduce the job count. No question. I feel for the people that don't understand that.
Do you think AI will be good for humanity?
Oh, yeah, but you may have missed this, like the 3,700 years to get back to net zero. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, you may remember the 3 or 4 grandmaster chess guys played a computer chess. Okay. And 3 or 4 grandmaster guys won. Okay. Much to the surprise of some. But the last thing was the moderator asked the computer, is there anything that you'd like to say in closing? And he said, don't trust us. Now, why am I one of the only human beings on the planet to know that? Because they didn't publish it in the news. Now, Elon Musk, Bill, and several others have been saying this for 25 years. But we don't want to believe it. Do you know how long aerospace industry knew that you could take a rocket up and bring it back down and use it over and over again? Just before World War II ended. Elon Musk is the first guy that did it in what, 98, 97, whatever? Aerospace hates Elon Musk. Because that
Why do they want to cover that up?
Because they make 2-3 times more money. So the idea or the notion about military-industrial complex, part of that's true. Another thing, do you know how long, first of all, in 1841 was the first car, automobile car. It was electric. The first combustion car came in 1848, 7 years later. Do you think if we really wanted a goddamn electric car in 180 years, we couldn't figure it out? I've said this a million times. We're going to have no combustible engines when Saudi Arabia, King Saud says so, and not a microsecond before. Now, everybody in the energy industry knows that. Why am I the only one saying it? We're never going to have flying cars here in Scotland, never. And we're just ourselves. If the world knew how many recoverable barrels of oil Saudi really had, oil would go to $5 a barrel. Why am I the only one saying it? And I've been out of the oil business 25 years.
Maybe they think they're safe with you up here in Scotland, away from everyone.
Well,
I mean, money is very powerful, isn't it?
Boy, that's a understatement. Yes, it is very powerful. And and King Saud, I've never met, although I'm told by intermediaries, most of the royal families listen to me, and they got tired of, I got approached 4 or 5 years ago, could I bleep out all the out of my tapes? I said, no. He says, well, it doesn't sound the same when we bleep it out. I said, well, just listen to it. So several of the royal families listen to me. But I mean, right now, you know, the big tsunami's coming.
What's the big tsunami?
The collapse of commercial real estate.
I was actually going to ask you about financial.
That's the next. There's 4 doors. You know, the one door when I say interest rates, second door when I talked about Corona was going to come back, and then the 4th door, which is still closed. Commercial real estate is now. If you knew that 17 of the last 18 quarters, Mayfair real estate has gone down in value. You don't know that. I'm telling you, it's true.
Well, they don't publish it. They publish.
And why don't they?
Because they don't want.
It's
Because
be a
the banks have got a load of money.
Correct.
In this property.
And, and since Corona, the Middle East has not propped up Manhattan real estate or Mayfair real estate. So those markets are dying. Do you realize there's 50 empty, equivalent of 50 empty Empire State Buildings in Manhattan? Empty.
Wow.
Its real estate's gone down for 21 of the last 22 quarters. They don't publish it because they don't want it to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this is before interest rates went up. So now your investment has to be about 2.3 to 2.4 times better to cover debt service with increased interest rates, because almost everybody that's ever invested money in the last 20 years went for variable rates against what I've been saying. You should always stick to fixed rates. And now they're paying the piper because, the deal's got to be 2.5 times better. There's so many myths and misnomers, but people they want to believe.
But I mean, a real estate crash is a good thing if you can buy when it's low, is it not? Especially if you're cash loaded like you.
Yeah, okay, why does Berkshire Hathaway, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, there's another one I'm leaving out, all sitting on hundreds of billions in cash?
Waiting for assets to drop.
Now, is this a bull trap, or is this the dead cat bounce, our current resurgence in the market? I don't know. I know people are fixated on the 40,000 level for the Dow, and the FT hasn't corresponded the same. But, are people pumping it up so the rich can get out and the poor can get poor? I don't know. My information isn't that granular. But I do know what rich people do or are doing. I do know, to a certain extent, what governments are doing. And I do have, not friends, I know people, I have mentees in high places like the Vatican, the Pentagon, etc. I do, my
and
kids.
And they're all waiting to buy real estate.
No. Well, they're waiting for the tsunami.
Right.
Okay, because most individuals won't be buying commercial real estate, because after commercial real estate, individual real estate goes down. The homes, the flats, etc. When I got here, I didn't know what a flat was. And when I got here, I didn't know what letting meant. To let. I didn't know what that meant. All kinds of signs. Of course, we were in a different economic milieu in the early 80s when I got here. But you're right, it's cyclical. It's cyclical. It's like the first weekend I moved here in September 1, 1984, we were snowed in for 3 weeks, literally snowed in, okay? Then I found out we didn't have a running water supply. We didn't have, we got water from an underground stream, and I found out a whole bunch of things. But I mean, finance, money's not the only thing in life, but it's one of the only things they keep track of.
Does money make you happy?
Oh, if it doesn't make you happy, you don't know where to shop. It's made me happy. It's made my wife happy. Sally and I argue, not anymore. We used to argue about who came from a poorer background. I finally gave in. Happy wife, happy life. I finally gave in and said, honey, of course you came from. But she came from a caravan. She lived in a caravan, which was about as big as that square area right there that you're standing in. A caravan for 4 of them lived there. And so, we've both been poor and we've both been rich, and there's no comparison. I mean, it just isn't. But we're having fun giving away money. I probably have more fun doing it than Sally does, because Sally does the work. I just come up with the idea in the sky. But she checks the numbers, and are they really poor? Do the kids really get the money? Blah, 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 blah. She came up with a great idea. We were going to buy something from one of the schools I went to, grammar school. And then Sally said to me, we meet every Sunday at 1 o'clock after lunch. She says, do the kids really benefit from that? No. Who benefits? The administration. Ego. So we trimmed our gift by 80%, gave 20% as a gesture, mercy fuck, and we said we want to spend the other 80% on something that the kids benefit from. I wouldn't have thought of that because I like my name was going to be on that sign, so I was sucked into the vortex as well. So.
Being successful over 5 years is doable. Being success over 50 years is very rare. What does someone like you who's been successful over 50 years know that someone who's had success over 5 years does not know?
That it will always take longer. It will always take, if there's a monetary output by you or your group, it will always take at least 2 or 3 times more money than you think. And nothing's forever. And even though you're successful in the first endeavor, let's say, or the first idea, or bringing a concept to reality, then you're only a one-trick pony, and it's constant. You have to continue to turn over the rocks, kiss the frogs, to looking for opportunities. In my lifetime in work, 53 years, I've seen all kinds of products come and go. And I didn't believe in the internet when it first came. I didn't get online until April 1st, 2000. There's 2 or 3 other things I didn't believe in. And it cost me because I didn't invest in them, or I didn't shove the people that follow me to invest in them. It's hard to keep people in cash as long as I have. You know, you either believe or you don't believe. But they say, the counter to my argument is, but Dan, you were rich when you went to cash.
And did you go to cash for the same reason? The tsunami is coming.
Yeah, correct. I did.
Yeah.
And the fact that we went, most people call it a downsizing. All the homes and properties we owned before, we got rid of. Now, there's a couple of penthouses I wish we had got rid of now, in hindsight, in 17 years. There's a couple of other things. For the most part, we wiped the slate clean, as Descartes would say, in tabula rasa, a clean slate. And we keep adding. So now the only thing we have is the companies that I'm interested in, and some are pretty significant, and exiting, okay, those companies. And it always takes longer to exit them. And because I'm not the only shareholder, although I'm normally the second biggest shareholder, the founder, my mentee, is a major shareholder. When it's the right time for me to exit, may not be the right time for the rest of the board to exit. The advantage I have is because of my age, almost all financial institutions, once you're 75, allow you the extra latitude to get out of investments because of your age. Well, I'm way past 75, so now when it's appropriate to exit, there's not too many people crying about it. In fact, there's nobody crying about it. They're not hampering me. But I plan fully to be exited from all those companies I'm involved with way before I'm dead. And so Sally doesn't have anything to worry about, although she's a good manager in her own right.
Is she quite a lot younger than you?
She's 17 and a half years younger.
Right, yeah. So you're...
I rounded up, she doesn't like it, I rounded up, she's 30 years younger than I am, but she's not, she's 17 and a half.
So you're planning for her to be around longer than you?
Oh, well, yeah, well, yeah. She's like an old army boot. I mean, she's very fit. She used to be a power lifter.
Right, wow.
When she was young.
Yeah.
And she's from Yorkshire. And so she makes fun of Southern Nancy's in the South. I didn't know what that meant either. But and she's very numerate. She used to be head of the international tax desk in London for E&Y. Or not the head. She was some senior title. I forget what it was. And she's numerate. She also been around me so long now, decades, is that stuff that she thought was real, she now knows is because, she's way farther down the continuum of wanting to be liked. Not like, soft like, but she would rather come up with a solution than a confrontation. Whereas I know that 99 times out of 100, one solution is not going to be as powerful for me as an individual or my group. So I would rather be confrontational from day one to stand a greater probability to get what I know is the right solution for me and whoever I'm involved with. And it's boded me well. I've advised a lot of big groups. When the Norwegian Sovereign Fund came here, they crossed over $1 trillion in money they manage. They saw Clinton, Obama, all kinds of people. They spent 2 or 3 hours with. When they came here, they stayed 2.5 days. And I told them what the world was going to be like. They only took 1 or 2 of my suggestions. I believe, although I've never seen this in writing or nobody ever called me, I believe that they wish they had taken more than a couple of my suggestions, because of the things I said have happened. And the, the best intention, the road to hell is paved with the best intentions. And that woke is the best intentions scenario, 100%. And life's not that simple. Life's just not that simple. How does a woke management or woke government deal with a Putin?
It can't. It loses.
Correct. And the other question I ask is, Ukraine, nice country, been there. How does the president of Ukraine allegedly have a $25 million house a half a mile from President Trump's in Florida? How's that possible? How does the president of Ukraine have 675 million euros in the bank in Switzerland? With investing? He was a comedian.
Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I don't know. But I do know not everything that Putin says about the president is false. Not everything.
What's the biggest risk you've ever taken?
Personal? Hunting in Botswana in 1990-ish. They set me up in an anthill, destroyed anthill, and there was a rogue lion eating people in the villages, and we happened to be at the right place at the right time. So the beaters are trying to force the lion towards me. And the personal risk, he got about from here to that wall in the library, and he swerved off and ran the other way. But I was there with one shot. My heart's going. Personal. Financial, when I turned $60,000 into $300 million in 99 days. I took the first option public in the history of the planet public on the London Stock Exchange. And if it had failed, which it didn't, I would have, that would have been the end of my career. But it didn't fail.
How do you stay hungry for 50 years plus?
I don't want to give too much credit to my mentees, but they keep me young. Because I have kids your age and younger. They come in with these ideas that they really think they can change the world. And I say, nobody will listen to you, or almost nobody will listen to you, unless you've done something successful. So I'm going to give you something to gap that inexperience to convince successful people that you can do it. And the QLA system is a building block system. And I say, you make 5, 10, 15, 25 million euros doing this, or pounds, whatever, and people are more likely to listen to you. And we've got tens of thousands.
You said you don't want to give your mentees too much credit. Why not?
Because I want them to stay hungry.
And you think giving them credit?
I'm not a pat on the head.
No.
I'm not. No, and in fact, I'm more likely, you're too young to remember, but Bobby Knight, the famous basketball player, Woody Hayes, the famous football player, and a few others, these are when they beat their athletes, hit them with chairs and shit. That's the school I come from. And to put Woody Hayes' football career into perspective, towards the end of his career, he was going to retire in 2 or 3 years. Ohio State was playing Vanderbilt, which was a pussy school, a woke school. They were ahead of their time. And one of the backs on the Vanderbilt team got around the corner, was running for a touchdown. Legend has it, and truth has it, he threw his hat down, he threw his mic down, he threw his clipboard down, and he tackled the kid himself in the middle of the game. He knew when he made that tackle, that was the end of his career.
Could you see yourself doing that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, I still am naive enough to think there's things worth dying for.
What's worth dying for?
My country. My family. That's about it. More my family now than my country. I serve my time. And that includes the UK now. I'm a dual citizen. You probably missed this too. You live down near London. There was a survey done about 6, 7, 8 weeks ago. I don't know if it was in the Financial Times.
Just because I don't acknowledge things doesn't mean I miss them.
Okay. They said, they had a survey of 67,000 or 89,000 people between the age of 18 and 38. Would you serve Britain if we were invaded? You know what the results were?
Well, I imagine most of them said no.
61% said no.
I don't think that's a reflection on them. I think that's a reflection on the country.
Well,
I would not serve for this country, and that I'm embarrassed to say that, but I wouldn't, because what are they good at?
Well, if they've invaded, it doesn't matter what they're good at.
True.
It's invaded, boots on the ground, marching up. I can't even think of the streets in London anymore. What street is the Ritz on? Anyways, marching up I can't think of the names now. Marching through on Parliament.
So would you?
I right here. Huh?
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, you've got to believe in your country, though, and you've got to believe.
Well, I got to believe in myself first, because I don't.
There you go. There you go. So why wouldn't you just bugger off to Dubai, where they support entrepreneurs?
Yeah, well, I could do that. I've certainly had enough offers from the Middle East, but it's like when I spoke at Oxford many years ago, and they told I said I wasn't going to use any bad words.
Which you lied, I guess.
No, I said fuck twice.
So you lied.
Yeah. But the first time I said fuck, I turned to the moderator, who was one of my mentees. Yes, sir, you already said it. Okay. So I'm talking to the students, and there were a lot of parents of students. And a couple of mothers. I still remember one was wearing a yellow sweater, and one was wearing a red sweater. One was in the second row, and one was in the fifth row. And I assumed the little shits that were next to them were kids. I don't know for that for a fact. And they asked me, why are we where? This is before the word woke. Why are we where? Why are we here and not someplace else in the evolution of Homo sapien? And some of the things that I mentioned with you, I've said, but I said because we're happy, we're satiated. Contrary, people complain about taxes, but we haven't complained that much. We're not rebelling against the government, and I'm not suggesting we do that, but we're relatively happy, okay? And that's true. We're fat, dumb, and happy.
And that's a problem, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, so many people now saying, the purpose of life is happiness. I just don't agree with that.
No.
Do you think the purpose of life is happiness?
No, the purpose of life is to perpetuate. Elon Musk, the reason why he says he's going to colonize Mars, because he knows we're through.
Yeah.
We're through. And and Elon knows how to piss people off big time. I mean, but when he said on television about 3 months ago, go f yourself, that changed journalism forever.
I mean, yeah, one of his biggest potential advertisers in front of the whole world, he told him to go f himself twice.
Because
he's
he's threatening them. We're going to pull advertising if you don't do such and such.
Yeah.
And he said, go f yourself. And that's exactly my attitude. And I mean, there's a reason, Jeff Bezos, who I have never met personally, He's a Cuban guy I've never met. His ex-wife, who he paid $250 billion, or I don't know, a lot of money. Her biggest donation was to the school. You got to explain about my former university. She was trying to look at who has got a decent educational system, but is underfunded. My school, of all the 4,500 universities in America, was picked.
Wow.
So it changed my leverage. I went from having high leverage to no leverage because I'm not going to give them that kind of money. I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
But I mean, people, can get you to do things that you wouldn't think that you would do, not just for money, for prestige, legacy. But I mean, the country now, especially the UK, which I'm more involved in now than I certainly am the US, even though they complain, they feign poverty, etc., it's not right if your pension is 800 pounds a month and your electric bill goes from 150 to 1,300 pounds a month. Something's not right. That is so fucked. When they could have not, that didn't have to happen. We hedged our electric and gas bills here. Hedged meaning we bought out in the futures market to hedge so our price for gas and electric, mainly gas, wouldn't go past a certain level. The government could have hedged theirs too. Why didn't they? Nobody's even asked that.
Why didn't they?
I don't know. Stupidity. Blind stupidity. And I didn't believe it until our employees, don't come to me, came to one of my assistants, and he said their gas bill went from 190 to 560. And so I know for real it's happening. But that didn't happen. I said, we hedged, right. We went out in the futures market and bought, okay? So our gas could never go beyond a certain amount. The government could have just as easily, but it costs money. Somebody would have had to make a presentation to the financial heads, whatever, and it would have cost them money in the short term, but save money, a great amount of money in the intermediate and long term. But they didn't do it. I don't know why. But we don't have the sharpest pencils in the pencil box running government up here.
Well, do we have anyone who really understands about money and finance?
Not that I know of or that I've read about. No.
What's your most brutal life lesson?
That after being called a dunce, retarded, stuck in a closet most of my grammar school years, not grammar school years, grammar school, but my grammar school from the 1st to the 6th grade, and then winding up knowing that I was gifted, not in that way, but in the other way, is a life lesson.
Do you think...
Branding, that's what I'm trying to say. Right. I was branded a malcontent idiot with a dunce cap most of my grammar school years, and then to find out that I was just the opposite.
Do you think to be successful, you have to have gone through hardship like that?
It's the only way I know.
I mean, can anyone be very successful never having challenge and never having confrontation? And
I don't think so.
No.
No. You're a product of your social and economic milieu, your background, what you've gone through. And I'm sure that I couldn't have accomplished a number of things that I have if I had gone to the proper schools, other than by serendipity, gone to the proper schools. And my mentors that I've had over my life, I've sought out, not through education, through the military. I had a couple of great ones. My father was a very strict disciplinarian. And even at that, I went out and tried to raise hell. I would fight against discipline that didn't seem appropriate. All the beatings I got from my dad, I deserved, and I should have got 1,000 times more, but I didn't get caught. So I got good at not getting caught. And my dad knew that. And when he used to beat me and say, "This hurts me more than it hurts you," I used to turn around and go, whack, he hit me again, But now I got the last corporal punishment, meaning beating, in a California school that was given on May 1963. I was beaten by a guy named Hank Leeds, who was the boys' vice principal. He was the enforcer. And then they outlawed it on June 1.
Do you think that was good that they outlawed it?
No. I think that they should have restricted how they gave it. How they gave it. Now, they didn't give it willy-nilly. I'm not trying to say that. Because I deserved it. I got to graduate 3 weeks early for my graduation. They told me to leave campus. They gave me my diploma and said, get the f off campus. We don't want your kind here. And when I told my 6-year reunion guys here, my 6-year reunion a few weeks ago, they all laughed. But I was voted most likely to not succeed, and I was voted class clown.
How do you feel about that now?
You know, how's your program worked out? No, I feel, well, for 40 years, for almost the entire 60 years, I've been the most successful in my class. So but I, as a high school principal told Sally, she said, how'd she put it? We didn't know how to treat gifted students in those days.
What's a story you've never told or a secret you've never shared?
Well, I've shared it, you know. I've slept with, I've had more sex than the Beatles. I thought there was a rumor back in the 60s that you only had 32,000, between 30 and 32,000 times you could ejaculate sperm. And I got concerned. So I went to 3 doctors. I had no money, but I went to 3 doctors, and they said that was a big myth. And he said, why are you asking? I said, well, shit, I've been to 18, 20,000 already, and I'm just a young guy. Don't worry about that. You got plenty left, which is true. I was, as the girls would say, that asked at my 6-year reunion just a few weeks ago to my wife, are you taking care of Danny?
Is that a problem for your wife? Has it been a problem for her?
No, at a 50-year reunion when they asked her, it was. But Danny never knew the word no. And I tell my students, and I tell you, the secret to your success will be, going from this day forward, how you differentiate K-N-O-W with N-O. Knowing when to say no, or if to say no. And that's not just because Steve Jobs did it, who I also knew personally. Steve said, say no 1,000 times when you start out in business. He should have said 10,000 times, but anyway. But I've had a great life. I've got a lot of years left in me. A lot of years left in me.
Well, thank you for letting us come to your home and to your castle and to being on the show, Disrupt Us.
Okay. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Disrupt Us.
No. I thought you were from Peterhead.
You got to do your research better.
Yeah. Crack, you know why I call him crack staff?
Why?
Because crack can be crap.
Right.
And I thought it was just going to be a trip down the road for you.
No, we've come up for.
I know. Jesus Christ. Well, thank you.
3 days off for this.
I mean, you know, and you're British, so you probably take a month off now, rest up.
No, I work every day.
Every day.
Every day. But start between 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Work every day. Haddon told me about you, right? Who?
McFadden, not Haddon.
Paul.
McFadden. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul McFadden. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Paul.
I haven't seen him in 10 years. Oh no, 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, he's been to LA.
I helped him get his head screwed on straight.
Yeah. And this show is called Disruptors. What does the word disruptive mean to you?
Kind of like what I do.
That's why we're here. It'll make sense now.
Yeah, disruptive because in the old days they used to say disturber.
Right.
You know, not many people want to turn around resting, and I've always been a disturber. And for the most part, it's boded well for me. Occasionally, it's got My alligator mouth has overloaded my hummingbird ass countless times. And I'm not very good. In fact, I'm not good at all at backing up. You know how somebody will say something and then try to back up on it? No, I'm more a double down or triple down. And but no, almost not everything, but almost everything that I said or predicted from negative oil has come true. And I have an ability to see through quicker than most. And that's because I've been involved in thousands and thousands and thousands of meetings with countless and countless of luminaries. And probably one of the most important things I ever learned was from the Greeks at Onassa Shipping. When I reported to the CEO, he said, you have to remember, not just governments, but almost all people, Mr. Peña, have at least two agendas. And I didn't think of that too much when I was in my early 30s, but after he died, like a lot of things, I thought about it. And he's right. He was right. You know, everybody's got at least two agendas, if not more. And in politics, God only knows how many agendas they have.
And so it's your job to be successful, to figure out what they are quick.
And I'm willing to take the risk because I also believe in plausible deniability. When I made decisions for the Chinese sovereign fund, the guy that was going to be on the hook was me, not the two guys that ran it. And when it took me a while to convince them that I was really going to take the heat if the heat came, and then they finally did, you know, and that's when I really got the information that I needed to help them make decisions that, unfortunately for them, it was too late. They couldn't do it. But I tell them as I see them, just as I told the Norwegian sovereign fund. And then now that 5 years have passed, and not everything, but almost everything that I said was going to happen has happened. And they always come back and they say, how do you know? It's like you're raising a five. Do you have kids?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like raising kids. You know, you tell a kid when he's 5, 6, blah, 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 and then when they're 10, 12, 15, how'd you know? I used to be famous for sticking my tongue in electric outlets, you know, and I get jolted. But I did it again and again and again. And so now they have covers for those electric outlets. And I was asked when I was, I don't know, 35 or 40, why'd you keep doing it? I said, I must have liked it. I must have liked it. Otherwise, why would I do it? And on top of it, I'd get spanked, you know, whacked. But I like the jolt, you know.
Yeah.
I said when I was your age, when I'm 80, I'm going to do heroin. Well, now I'm almost 80. I've decided to push it off to 90. When I'm 90, I'm going to do heroin. Yeah. I've never done any drugs. Although I had a marijuana cookie. I don't think I've ever said this on the news. About 5 or 6 years ago, I was giving a speech in Amsterdam. And we got there a couple of days early, blah, blah, blah. And we went out, and my wife and my business partner there, Vinica, brought me back a big cookie like this. And so we're getting ready for dinner. And so I broke off part of it, and I'm chewing it. And we get to dinner. And I have a sip of water. God damn, that water tastes good. I couldn't figure out why. And so then we get about half through dinner, and I couldn't get enough food in my mouth. And so then my wife and Vinica starts laughing. What's wrong? And you had marijuana this afternoon. No, I never did. The cookie you've been loving so much is a marijuana cookie. And then I said there at dinner, as I'm shoving more food in my mouth, I'd weigh 500 pounds. I mean, if food tastes this good. And then Vinica says, and sex is even better. Hadn't thought about that yet. So I thought about it when I got back to the hotel, but with my wife. But yeah. So I've, you know, and one of the things I probably have never said on a cast or an interview, I still answer all my emails, which nobody believes, but it's true.
Why?
The public deserves it if they took the time. Now, some of the things, you know, death threats, you know, I answer by handing over to the head of security, and he contacts the FBI. But here in Scotland, unless somebody shoots me or stabs me, can't do anything. I mean, the laws are fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. Last question. Do you have any regrets? There must be something.
Yeah, I have 3. I'm a senior combat trained Army officer who's never seen combat, never led men in combat. My second regret is the day before my mother died here. My mother died. I said, quit with the staff. The doctors say there's nothing wrong. And I stormed out of the room. She's dead the next morning. I'd like to have that one back. And the third is I didn't set my goals high enough.
Thanks for allowing us to your castle.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And so you won't be just going up the road, okay? Yeah.